Welcome to the Cohen family Purim Lego play. Our story starts in the time of King Ahasuerus, the Persian king who ruled over 127 provinces, from India to Ethiopia. In the third year of his reign, when the king sat on his throne in the Shushan, the capital, he gave a banquet for all of his courtiers. He displayed the dazzling wealth of his kingdom for 180 days. He then laid on a 7-day feast for all of his subjects in Shushan. Despite Mordecai's warnings for the Jews not to attend, many went. At the party, the king demanded that his wife, King Vashti, join him, but she had arranged her own party for the women.
I'm not going to the party. I'm not going to the party. I'm staying home with my girlfriends in my bedroom.
She refuses to come to your party, Your Majesty. She can't do that. If I let her get away with this, my reputation will be ruined. What shall I do?
You should banish Queen Vashti from the royal court and take away all of her royal possessions.
Okay, but what shall I do for a queen?
Why not arrange a beauty contest for all the single girls in your kingdom so that you can choose one to be your new queen?
And so it was. Vashti was seen no more, and the kingdom was buzzing with excitement about the beauty contest to choose a new queen. The king also sent out an edict commanding all wives to obey their husbands. Mordecai was a Jew who lived with his adopted niece Hadassah, who later became known by her Persian name Esther, in Shushan. They had heard about the king's decree and about the beauty contest, but Esther was very nervous about it. Esther was forced to attend the pageant, and as it turns out, she found favour with the king, and, in the month of Teves, in the 7th year of his reign, was chosen as queen. Mordecai was concerned for her welfare in the court, and spent many nights outside the palace gates. While she was in the royal household, Esther kept her identity as a Jewess a secret. Meanwhile, outside the palace gates, two of Ahasuerus' courtiers have a secret meeting.
I'm fed up with this king. Once he's out of the way, our friend Haman can stand in and run this kingdom properly.
You're right, we need to come up with a plan to kill the king. Why don't you poison his drink before he goes to bed?
Great idea. I'll do it tonight.
Little did they know that Mordecai had overheard their conversation. They were talking in Turkish, but he nonetheless understood what they said.
I must get word to Esther right away. The king is in great danger.
What? This is unbelievable! Arrest Bigson and Serish and have them executed at once! Haman, I want to promote you to be Prime Minister.
Thank you, King. As my first ruling, I decree that everyone should bow down before me.
Everyone obeyed his ruling except for Mordecai. This made Haman very upset, and he vows to kill all the Jews. Haman was an Amalekite, a sworn enemy of the Jews. He secretly threw a lottery to pick a date to carry out his plan. The date that was picked was the 13th of Adar.
I am afraid there are people living scattered across your kingdom, Your Majesty, that have a law of their own. It's not right that the king puts up with them. Please, accept this gift of 10,000 silver coins, in exchange for which I will take it upon myself to destroy this people.
On the 13th of Nisan of the 12th year of the king's reign, an edict was sent out that on the 13th day of Adar, all Jews are to be killed. When Mordecai heard about what Haman and the king had agreed, he went into mourning. Meanwhile, in the palace, Queen Esther is in her bedroom. In comes Hassach, her personal royal attendant. Your Majesty, Mordecai is sitting outside the palace and he's very sad. He's torn his clothes. Why? Haman's got permission from the king to kill all the Jews. Quick, get Mordecai and take him some new clothes. Esther, you need to go to the king and ask him to overturn this ruling. But I can't. I haven't been called for 30 days. Do not think that you will escape the king's edict more than any other Jew. If you remain silent, the Jews will be saved in some other way. But you and your household shall die, and it may well be that this is exactly what you were made to be queen for. Okay, gather all of the Jews in Shushan together and fast for me for 3 days. Me and my maidservants will also fast. Then I will go to the king, and if I perish, I perish. On the 3rd day of the fast, Esther dresses in her royal clothes and goes into the king's inner chamber. The king found favour in Esther, and to show his approval, he extended his gold sceptre towards her. Hello, Esther. What can I do for you? Ask anything, even half of my kingdom. If it pleases the king, I would like to invite the king and Haman to come to a banquet today that I will personally prepare for you both. Wonderful. Go and invite Haman at once. Later on, at the banquet. Is there anything I can do as a favour to you, Esther? Please, your majesty. If I have found favour with your majesty, please let the king and Haman come to another banquet tomorrow, and I will do as the king says. Although Haman was glad to be invited to Queen Esther's banquet, he was getting increasingly frustrated with his predicament. I have been promoted to high rank by the king, and I have been personally invited to a banquet hosted by Queen Esther, both today and tomorrow, along with the king. Yet all of this means nothing to me, as long as I see that Jew Mordecai sitting at the king's gates. Haman's wife Zeresh made a suggestion. She suggested that he make a 50-cubit high gallows, and the following day ask the king to hang Mordecai on it. Then that would make him feel happier for the second banquet. So Haman built the gallows right away, and quickly went back to the king to seek his consent to hang Mordecai. That night, the king was restless and couldn't sleep. He wasn't sure why Esther would invite Haman to a private banquet. He thought there was a conspiracy against him. Servant, bring me my royal records. Read them to me and send me to sleep. The king's servant read the royal chronicles and read about how Mordecai had saved him from the failed plot of Bigsan and Zeresh. What did we do to honour Mordecai for this? Nothing has been done for him, sire. Who's that I can hear outside? It's Haman outside, sire. Let him come in. Ah, Haman, what should be done to someone the king wants to honour? Haman thought the king must be thinking of him. Well, sire, the greatest honour would be to have the man you intend to honour ride upon your finest horse, dressed in your own royal robes. Have him led through town by your most trusted servant, and have him declare, "This is what is done to those the king wishes to honour." Great! Quick! Do that to Mordecai, the Jew, who's sitting at the king's gate. Don't miss out any of the details of your suggestion. And so Haman led Mordecai on a horse dressed in royal finery. He walked the streets just as he himself had suggested. This is what is done to those the king wishes to honour. Louder, Haman! This is what is done to those the king wishes to honour. Haman returned home despondent, while Mordecai returned to the king's gate anxious for the fate of his people. Back in the king's banquet hall, the king and Haman sit at Esther's second banquet with the king's attendant present. So Esther, thanks for the lovely food, but what is it that you want? If I have found favour with your majesty, spare my life and the lives of my people, for we have been condemned to death. Who was it? Who would dare do such a thing? This wicked enemy Haman. Haman is scared. The king is angry but confused. He gets up from the table to get some fresh air. Haman cowers before Esther and pleads for his life. The king returns and sees Haman cowering by the queen and thinks he's trying to attack Esther. Would you actually attack the queen in my own palace? And furthermore, there's a 50-cubit high gallows there that Haman's made for your trusted advisor Mordecai. Hang Haman on those gallows! That day the king took his signet ring back and gave it to Mordecai and showered him with wealth. But all was still not well. The edict against the Jews was still in force. Please, your majesty, may we rescind the decree written by Haman to destroy the Jews? I give Haman's estate to Mordecai the Jew. Write whatever decree you wish and seal it with the royal signet ring. Although the decree couldn't be rescinded once it had been written, it could be counteracted. And so, on the 23rd of Sivan, a new decree was written to allow the Jews to defend themselves against any attackers. Mordecai took over Haman's position, and the Jews enjoyed light and gladness, joy and honour. When the 13th of Adar came, the Jews did indeed defend themselves against the few who dared to attack them. But there were still those who continued to strike. The queen successfully petitioned the king to extend Mordecai's decree so that the Jews could continue defending themselves for yet another day, the 14th of Adar. And so the 14th of Adar was established as a day of gladness and feasting and of sharing food and charity with others. And the Jews called the festival Purim, which means lottery, after the lots Haman cast to choose the fate of the Jews. The end.